What is going on, guys? JT43 here, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to do rear brakes on a 2011 to 2016 Scion TC. So doing rear brakes is probably one of the most basic things, so this is most likely going to be an easy tutorial to follow along to. No bullshit, just straight to it. So I'm going to start by jacking up the car and taking the wheels off. Okay, now with the car all jacked up, we're going to go ahead and take that wheel off. If you guys are wondering what size socket it is to take the lug nuts off, it's going to be a 21. Okay, once your lug nuts are off, go ahead and pull your wheel off and then set it to the side. And then once you pop that wheel off, you're gonna be greeted with your brake caliper. Now, just like last video, if you ever watched the last video, my neighbors are playing basketball again, so just bear with me here. What we're gonna do next is there's gonna be, let's get a little bit closer here. There's gonna be two 14mm bolts, so there's gonna be one on top right here, and then one on the bottom right here. So if I show you from a wide angle, it's gonna be one right here and then one right here. So once you have them off, you're just gonna put them off to the side. Don't lose these bolts, you're gonna need these again. And so also, if you were having trouble with these bolts, like getting them off, all I did was I took my wrench, obviously put it on, and then I just kind of like bashed it down. You know, sometimes they're gonna be like rusted tight. You know, you shouldn't really have to use WD-40. They shouldn't be that tight because, you know, brakes is a regular maintenance thing. They shouldn't be like locked on there forever. But yeah, if you had any trouble, just make sure the wrench is seated nicely on the bolt and then just kind of crack down on it, see if that works. And then once you do have those bolts off, you can pretty much just, you might have to pry it off, but pretty much just take your caliper and you want to kind of move it off to the side, maybe even zip tie it somewhere, because then we're gonna have to take this bracket right here off to change the rotors. But real quick before we take this bracket off, I wanted to check out these brakes, and you can just see here there is literally nothing left. Like this, that's not even pad anymore, that's the actual fucking metal part itself. Like if we look on this side, you know, there's a little, it's hard to see, but there's a little tiny bit of pad left. But if we look over here, there is nothing left here. You can tell whoever previously owned this car never did rear brakes. So next, just to make things easier before we take off this bracket, we're just gonna go ahead and take the pads and the clips off. I'm assuming that your kit came with all this stuff. By the way, my kit that I'm using for the brakes and the rotors is Bosch Quiet Cast. I got these off of Rock Auto. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to pick these up for yourself. And then here are the rotors. You know, you are going to see these later in the video, but I'm just kind of showing them now, just in case you don't have your stuff yet and you're thinking about getting the stuff. I'll leave a link in the description down below if you want to pick them up. But yeah, anyway, we're going to be taking off the brake pads, or whatever the fuck is left of them, and the clips. So I mean, at this point, we can kind of just hack and slash at this shit. You know, well, we're reusing the bracket, but all of this shit is non-reusable. So I'm just gonna try and get a flathead in here. Yeah, this is not good, man. You see that? What the fuck, man? That's pretty fucking bad, man. But we're gonna keep going. I'm gonna get this other pad off real quick. Okay, got this off. See, now this pad, oh man, this one looks a lot better. What we want to make sure that we remember is the way that things went. So how to tell them apart and which way they go is, you'll see the wear sensor here, which basically when your pads are finished, they'll start, you know, this will start making contact right here. You can see on the pad, actually. On the pad, you'll see this little clip here, and it pokes up just a little bit. So when this pad is obviously gone, it's gonna start scratching on that shit, which will then let you know that it's time to change. But the pad that wore down the most was the outer side, not the inner side. So I'm glad I caught it before, you know, everything was like totally fucked. Anyway, so how to tell which ones go where. So obviously this one came out of the outer part, so we know that the one without the little clip thing is not gonna go on the outer, and then we just pulled this one out from the inner, so we know that the one with the clip is going to be the inner. So that's kind of a good way to remember where your pads are going to go. Now that we got the pads out, we're going to go ahead and take these clips out. So all you're going to do to get these clips out is just going to take a flathead screwdriver. You're going to come back here and you're kind of just going to pry up until it clicks out, assuming that your new kit has the new clips. If you don't have new clips, do not fuck with these, you know what I mean? Just kind of put your pad back in, or take the bracket out with the clips in it. You know, if you don't have a new one of these, check your kit right now, make sure you have a new clip before you go, you know, fucking whacking this thing up. And we're just gonna use a flathead screwdriver. We're gonna get underneath here and kind of just lift up until it wants to pop out. Kind of like that. Okay, so once you have your clips off, you're just gonna toss them in the trash. You don't need these anymore. Now we're gonna take off this bracket so that we can switch out this rotor. So back here, there's gonna be two more 14mm bolts. So there's gonna be one right here. Try to get a better angle on it. So there's one right here, and then there's one on the bottom down here. So we're gonna be taking these two off. Not even gonna lie, man, these bolts kicked my ass trying to get them out. Bracket is out, which is what we wanted to do. You just set that down. But if you are having trouble like I am, like I was really trying to fucking crank down on these things, I ended up having to get a hammer and just kind of setting the wrench on it like that, and then just kind of hammering it down. It worked. I didn't break anything, obviously, but you know, sometimes you do gotta like manhandle the fuck out of these bolts. I got really lucky with the top ones, but didn't get so lucky with the bottom ones. I'm only explaining that to kind of like, you know, let you know like, hey, this is what to expect. You know, like sometimes things are gonna go easy like the top bolts, but then sometimes things might go a little wrong like the bottom ones, and I had to fucking bash the shit out of it just to get it out. But anyway, got the bracket out, which is good. So now we're gonna be taking off this rotor. Now unfortunately, the previous owner, like the previous shop, whoever did this previous brake job, didn't put the screws in for the rotor, which it's not the end of the world. If anything, it's gonna be easier for this rotor to come out. But your car is most likely gonna have those two screws. So what you wanna do is you wanna go ahead and get a, first of all, spray the fuck out of it with WD-40, because these things are gonna give you a fucking nightmare. They're kind of hard to take out, especially when they're like rusted in there. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna spray them with WD-40, let them sit for a little bit, and then try and just get preferably a Phillips with a smaller head that has like a really grippy handle, because you're gonna be, you know what I mean, you're gonna be turning the shit out of that. You don't want something skinny and flimsy to where you're stripping the screws. If you do have those screws, WD-40, let it sit for a little bit. Get a big enough grippy screwdriver and just try and get them out. If you can't get them out, you can use heat. Just be careful when you're heating them up. And if you really can't get them out, you can always just drill them out, buy new ones, and just be careful of the threads. So that's my advice on that. But since I don't have those, we're just gonna go ahead and take this rotor off. All right, so I'm sitting here hammering the shit out of this rotor, and it is not budging. Lucky for you, there's another solution that you can do, and it's perfect because this is all closed in. I'm basically gonna be using a puller to try and get this off, and what it is, I mean, you'll see it in a second, but pretty much it sits in the middle. There's a piece that sits in the middle, and then there's two claws that kind of claw around it, and then it pulls out. You'll see in a second. As you saw in that last clip, I was pretty much getting ready to put the pulley on, and I was originally gonna do the claw one, so it was a pulley where it would go in here and then it would claw around and kind of pull it out, but I didn't even have to use that one. As I was setting up the other pulley where it would use these two screws, you can see the marks right here. As I was kind of tightening them down to put the pulley on top of them, it kind of just popped the rotor right off. So anyway, old rotor is off. So anyway, we're gonna be getting into the next step here. So unfortunately, these calipers, they're not like normal calipers. Usually with a normal caliper, these pistons would be hollow and there'd be a little ring around it, and you would pretty much take a C-clamp and you'd take it to the edge and kind of just push that back, push the piston back so you can fit the new pads in the rotors. But Toyota wanted to be a little different, and I can see why they did this, because it does kind of make more sense to do that. But at the same time, you have to get a whole new tool. That tool that I'm talking about is right here. So this is called a caliper piston compressor. Now, I know you're seeing this right now. You're like, oh fuck, I might not have one. How much are they? I literally ran to AutoZone today and I just rented this out. Yeah, I didn't even buy it. I'm gonna literally, after I make this video, I'm gonna go return that shit and get my money back. But a lot of people see this and they go, nope, fuck that, I'm taking it to the shop. I don't know what I'm doing. It's pretty much the same thing as if you were gonna use a C-clamp. You're using this tool instead of a C-clamp. And out of this whole like kit here, you're only using one tool. You're gonna use this thing. This is the one that's gonna like fit your brake caliper piston. It's just this one. You need one with the four four little grooves here. None of this shit matters. You just need this, the tool, you need the bracket, and you need the one with the 4 grooves. That's literally all you need. So we're literally gonna take this box, put it over here, because we don't need any of that. If you do want to pick one up, because I can see someone wanting to buy this for future brake jobs in the future, I'll leave a link in the description for these down below if you want to go pick one up, just like the brake pads and the rotors. Okay, so I'm pretty much going to try my best to show this, because I do need 2 hands to do this, and it's a pretty tricky part to show. But you're pretty much going to take the I don't even know what you would call this, the one with the 4 pokes, or the 4 spokes that stick out, because there are 4 sides, as you can see, to the piston itself. And you're pretty much going to line it up. You're going to put it on top of it like that, and then see where it doesn't spin, so it's kind of locking into those grooves. So then when you put the tool on it, and I'm sorry, it is really hard to show this. Try and see, once I get it all together, I'm gonna try and see if I can get a better angle on it. So pretty much like this, and I'm holding it. So you have the tool like that, you have the fitting at the end of the tool, and so what you're pretty much gonna do is line it up into these grooves here, and you're just gonna twist that handle, and it's gonna slowly start pushing that piston down. So I'll see if I can set the camera down here somewhere, and I'll get it from the back of it, because I know if I put it here somewhere, it's not really gonna show the piston going down. Okay, so hopefully with the way I placed the camera, hopefully you're able to see how I was able to turn this back. We're gonna go ahead and move on to the next step, which would be putting the new rotor on. So before we actually put the new rotor on, it's important to clean it and kind of get all the oil off of it. So that's where your brake cleaner comes in. So what we're pretty much gonna do is just spray the rotor down, and then you're gonna take some paper towels or napkins or whatever you have, and you're just gonna wipe it down, make sure you get all that excess oil off. Oh, and one more thing, make sure that your hands are clean too. You don't want to touch this rotor with dirty hands. So yeah, it's pretty simple. As you saw me do it, you're gonna spray it, wipe it down. When you think you're done with that side, flip it over, spray it, wipe it down. And just from that, we got all of this dirt and gunk off. So now this is ready to get put on the car. And so next what we're gonna do, and I'll kind of explain it as I do it, and I actually have to bring you over here to show you. Since these do have matching holes, even if you don't have them, you still wanna try and match these holes up. And a good way to find those holes is, obviously the bolt that I used had anti-seize on it, but this bolt didn't. And you'll see kind of like a little circular rust mark, and that's how you know where your bolts are gonna be. So before putting the rotor on, you just kind of wanna size up and make sure that these holes match with these hole prints right here. So what you're gonna do is pretty much just line it up and just kind of press it on, push down, make sure that it's seated all the way. And don't worry if it's not completely seated, because when you do put your wheel and the lug nuts back on, the lug nuts will kind of push this thing back. If you want to, you can take a wooden hammer like this and just kind of gently, you know what I mean? Kind of gently push down on it. So, okay, so once you got your new rotor on, you're gonna go ahead and put this bracket back on. And so before you put these bolts back in, you're gonna go ahead and take some anti-seize, and you're gonna put some anti-seize on these bolts so that next time you take them off, they're not gonna be as hard to take off. All right, so after you got your bracket on, you're gonna go ahead and put your clips in next. So they kind of just, the same way you took them out is the same way they're gonna go back in. So the fat side in, and then this piece in the middle here is it's gonna be your middle ground that sits into this groove right here. And so you kind of just wanna get it placed in like that. Just make sure that it started in the groove at least. Kind of like that. And then you're gonna grab some channel locks. You're gonna kind of gently push down on it until you hear them click. So kind of want to grab it, get a nice grab on it, and then just okay. So that side is in the click, and then you're gonna go to the other side and just do the same thing. Okay, so then once you got them snapped in, and don't worry if you don't think you have them completely snapped in, because the brake pad will kind of keep them pushed down once they're both in there. But once you got your bottom on, go ahead and put that top clip in. All right, so once you have your clips in, you're gonna go ahead and put your pads in. So remember, the inner pad is gonna have the tab on it. So this one is gonna go on the inside. And then the pad without the tab is gonna go on the outside. So how to do this the easiest way is they're going to slip into these little slots here, and then you're just gonna slide them in until this clip kind of gets pushed back like that. And then you're gonna do the same thing on the other side. So if you're having trouble getting your pads to kind of fit together, you can use the channel locks again and just kind of open them up to where they look like this. And then you can kind of clamp the pads together and just kind of push them in towards the rotor. You can just use channel locks and just kind of pinch them together. All right, so now that you have your pads on, you're gonna go ahead and put your actual caliper on. But before we do that, we're gonna have to put grease. So a lot of people think that you put grease on the back of the pads, and you can do that, but a more efficient way to do it is to put it on the back of the cylinder, or the front face of the cylinder, and then you're gonna put grease right on these fangs here. Okay, so once you got the grease on your caliper, make sure you don't get it on the rotor. You're gonna go ahead and put your caliper over the whole assembly. All right, so once you have your caliper over the whole assembly, you're gonna go ahead and take these two bolts. Remember, I told you don't lose them, you're gonna need them. And they're pretty much gonna go on the top and screw into these bolts here. So there's gonna be 114 at the top and then 114 at the bottom. So after you get those two 14mm bolts in, you're gonna go ahead and put your wheel on. Once you're all done torquing the wheels down, you're pretty much finished. That's how you do rear brakes on a Scion TC. So anyway, if you did enjoy this video, or this helped you out in any single way, please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you later.